All right. Hello, everybody. So tonight we're going to talk about mindfulness and self-compassion. And I'm really excited about this topic because I think it's something we can all use in our lives, kind of like a lot of skills that we use with clients and when we're helping people. We can use it for ourselves, but we can also use it for the people that we work with. So, and I very much want, if anybody has questions on Facebook or here, to don't be shy. Go ahead and ask questions. Okay, so let's start by talking about what mindfulness is. I think it can be helpful to talk about what mindful is not first. So mindfulness is not trying to empty our minds and not have any thoughts. You know, sometimes I think with meditation we think about having a completely empty mind, and that is not the goal or the point of mindfulness. Mindfulness is also not about control. It's not about controlling our thoughts or our emotions at all. And I want to tell a little story to really demonstrate what mindfulness is not. So I don't know if any of you guys like to hum when you're happy, but I'm a hummer. When I'm happy, I hum out loud. And this one time I was going to the library and I was walking up the ramp, you know, the ramp that goes into the library. And I love the library. It makes me happy. So I was walking up the ramp and there was a teenage boy in front of me and he kept turning around and looking at me funny. And it took a few times before I realized I was humming really loud, like everyone around me could hear, and I didn't even realize I had been doing it. So that's not mindfulness. So based on that example of what mindfulness is not, does anyone have an idea of what they think mindfulness is? Or, yeah? Yeah, really noticing what you're experiencing. And it can be your surroundings or it can be what you yourself are experiencing. So the basic definition for mindfulness is awareness of your present experience, and then the other part of it is trying to notice that without judgment, but with acceptance and curiosity. So does that kind of make sense to everybody? Okay. So the basics of mindfulness, I think it's helpful to think of an acronym, and the acronym is RAIN. So the first thing we want to do is just recognize what's there. So this can be noticing maybe our own internal experience, what's happening with our thoughts, our emotions, or it could be noticing our surroundings, maybe being really aware of, you know, things around us in nature, or maybe it's really noticing others, noticing someone's body language or the energy they have. It's really just trying to bring all your attention to that. And then the second part is allowing what is there to be there. And I think that can be hard, especially when we're sitting with a really difficult emotion. It can be hard to allow it, but that is an important step. And then the next thing is to investigate our inner experience with curiosity and kindness. So, you know, really being curious, where is this emotion coming from? Where are these thoughts coming from? Or if we're communicating with somebody else, what's underlying what they're saying to me right now? What's really going on for them, and trying to be in tune with that. And then the final part is non-identification with what we notice. So what I think a lot of times when we have thoughts or emotions, we label them as good or bad, and we judge them as like I'm weak if I'm feeling this way, or it's wrong for me to feel this way. I think we all have an inner critic that says, I shouldn't be feeling this way, I shouldn't have these thoughts. And mindfulness really helps us just accept them as just thoughts and just information for us to be aware of and notice and kind of be curious about. So it's a pretty simple idea, but it's difficult to achieve. That's why mindfulness is called a practice, because I don't think we ever get perfect at it. Okay. So just let everybody read that quote. This is Breanne Brown, and she says, we are a culture of people who've bought into the idea that if we stay busy enough, the truth of our lives won't catch up with us. And can anyone relate with this? Feeling like maybe you stay busy or distract yourself. Okay, got a big affirmation over there. That we won't have to think about a difficult emotion or a difficult truth about a relationship or a job or part of our life where if we face that truth, we might have to do something about it. And so I think mindfulness can be a good something to combat that, because I think it's human to do this, to want to avoid things that are unpleasant. But when we work with clients, part of our job is, well, we're actually going to sit with this emotion. We're actually going to sit and look at life and your life and whether it's what you want it to be, and we're not going to avoid it and we're not going to push it away. So mindfulness can really help kind of foster that mindset. Does anyone have any thoughts or questions up to now? Okay, I'll sum it up. So she's kind of pointing out that if we sit with that negative emotion, that it can also be helpful to think forward to the future when maybe the emotion will be past and there's a more positive. And I think that that's definitely a touchstone of mindfulness, is sitting with this emotion allows us to move through it so that we can work through it. Otherwise, we're just pushing it down and it pops up later in a more intense way, which kind of leads to the next quote. Carl Jung said, "What you resist not only persists, but will grow in size." So I definitely noticed this in my life. When I try to avoid a situation or an emotion, it just metastasizes. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't, ignoring it just makes it louder, really, and just makes it come back later, maybe in another situation. And so it is best if we can really pay attention in the moment to those things. Okay, so let's talk about some of the benefits of mindfulness. Mindfulness has been shown to decrease anxiety and depression. I think there's definitely a lot more science showing that it decreases anxiety. It seems to really help anxiety, and I think part of that can be that a lot of times with anxiety, we get anxiety about our anxiety, or we'll have guilt about our anxiety or our depression. And mindfulness really shifts that to a place of acceptance and a place of kind of normalizing that, hey, I'm human, I get anxious, I get depressed, and that's okay, it's part of being human. And so I think that's part of the reason it really helps with those two things. It can help with stress reduction and can really help with just relaxation in general and sleep. And then it's used in SMART programs, which are addiction recovery programs. And I think the main way it gets used is there's something called urge surfing. So kind of the idea of any difficult emotion or urge that I have, there's like a wave to it, there's an ebb and a flow to it. And I can teach myself to ride that wave and not necessarily act on it. And so that's one way that mindfulness is used. And it also facilitates just healthier habits in general. As we were talking before, like, we often turn to different things like substances or food or sex or different things to distract ourselves, or media, from really being quiet and sitting with those emotions. And so I know for me, if I have a rough day, I come home and I want sugar. Like, that's what I do. And I haven't figured out how to not do that. But I think mindfulness can help us sit with it and say, okay, what am I really feeling? Am I really wanting sugar? And if I am, I can go have some sugar. Or am I feeling really stressed, or I need comfort, or I'm feeling lonely? Then maybe we can address those emotions instead of just distracting ourselves. Okay, yes. I think so. What do you guys think? Has that been your experience, that technology makes mindfulness more difficult? Right. Yeah. Yeah. Which is technology in general, I think, right? It has great things and then it can be a detriment. Yeah, I've noticed for myself, like, I haven't finished a book in a really long time. And I used to read all the time. So I do think technology gives us stuff faster and it can be more engaging. So yeah, I think that's definitely, but all the more reason to do mindfulness, because it helps us re-engage with our body and just slow down in general. Okay, so we are going to practice some mindfulness. Yay! So everybody kind of get sitting in a way that is comfortable, but where you can kind of stay alert. And I'm going to talk us through a mindful exercise. Any questions on Facebook up to this point? Okay, I'm going to sit down for this. So if you're comfortable closing your eyes, go ahead and do that. If you're not, you can gaze softly at the floor. So we're going to begin by just noticing your breathing. You don't need to breathe a certain way, just breathe normally. And as you bring your attention to the breathing, just notice the sensations in your body as you inhale and as you exhale. Sense the air traveling out of your body the way it came in. Start to feel that gentle rise and fall of the breath. You might notice that your mind wanders. If this happens, just notice it and then gently guide your attention back to your breathing. Just really allow yourself to be totally present in this moment and notice whatever comes into your awareness. And now take a moment and connect with your body. And just see if you sense anything in your body right now. And now bring your attention back to your breath and just kind of soften that focus a little bit and let your mind wander if it wants to. Okay, so coming slowly back into the room, maybe hearing the sounds around you, feeling your feet on the floor. Just open your eyes when you're ready. Okay, so does anybody want to share maybe something they noticed or became aware of? And Facebook people, I'm assuming you did that with us. You're welcome to join in. Nobody felt anything or noticed anything? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So Richie became aware of the tension in her body. Yeah, I noticed some, what I would describe fizziness in my stomach. Probably feeling nervous because I'm presenting. I also noticed the sound. Did you guys hear that white noise sound? Was this your first time practicing mindfulness for any of you? You guys have all done it before. Okay. That's awesome. Bunch of veterans in here. So maybe you could share your own experiences of how mindfulness has helped you. Yeah. Dave said it helps him be in the moment. Oh, okay. So we need to check in with them. Yeah, okay. So mindfulness different than meditation. I would say, as far as I know, like mindfulness is pulled from meditation. I think the focus for mindfulness is noticing without the judgment and with curiosity and acceptance. I don't know. Does anybody know if meditation is this different from that? From like my like stereotype in my head is that meditation is more like clear the mind, enlightenment, achieve Zen status. I don't know, but I don't know that there's necessarily much difference other than the acceptance without judgment part of mindfulness. Mm. Yeah. Yes, that's a good point. Thanks, Richie. So mindfulness can happen any time of the day. We can notice any activity that we're doing, whereas meditation, I think we usually think of sitting still, like we just did, right? But mindfulness, yeah, it can be a sensory, an active thing. Anything else? Are we good to move on? Okay. 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 So let's talk about a few ways that we can practice mindfulness. One is called a body scan. It's just kind of similar to what we just did, where you kind of get in touch with your body and your breathing, and you just scan through your body and just really take note of any tension, any pain, maybe parts that feel numb, or maybe parts that feel really relaxed and happy. Another way to practice is just any sensory activity. So really anything. It could be brushing your teeth. It could be while you eat. It could be going on a walk in nature and really paying attention to, the shape of the leaves or the texture of the bark, that kind of thing. Mindfulness listening, I think this one is one of my favorites because I think it's so easy with technology, like you mentioned, just not really being present when other people are talking to us. I know I do this with my kids a lot. So really being present in the moment, noticing their body language, really making that eye contact with others when they're talking can be a great mindful practice. And with really young kids, I feel like they can take a really long time to spit something out, and you just are like, okay. Really, it can be a really good practice to stay mindful and present with them as they try to formulate their sentences. The 5 senses exercise, you guys have probably heard of this. It's just noticing 5 things that you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 you can taste. So again, just anytime you engage those 5 senses and try to bring all your attention there, that's being mindful. I think another way we can is anytime we notice we're feeling an emotion, try to connect it with a place in your body or something that you feel in your body, and that's also being mindful. There's also imagery exercises, kind of like what you were talking about, Dave, where we can imagine like a safe space, or we can imagine a container where we put hard emotions, different things like that. And I do want to mention, like, mindfulness is not therapeutic when someone's actively experiencing like a trauma response. So then at that point you want people to really be able to ground themselves. So whether it's you or a client, like, make sure that your emotions are regulated, because sitting with really intense traumatic responses can be re-traumatizing. So mindfulness doesn't have as much of a place there until we learn to regulate our emotions. Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a lot of overlap. I think that, especially when we're talking about the 5 senses, that can be a grounding exercise. It would just depend on how you're using it, I guess. Like, why? If you're using it as a practice, like I'm intentionally trying to be more present in the moment, or my nervous system is agitated and I need to ground it. So, yeah. And does that make sense? Yeah. There's definitely a lot of overlap. It just wouldn't be like, okay, we're going to confront this difficult emotion right in this moment, right? Because they need to ground first. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about mindfulness before we move on to self-compassion? Okay. All right. Self-compassion goes hand in hand with mindfulness, and it's one of my favorite absolute things ever. I think that in my own life, self-compassion has really been a game changer for me having just better mental health. And I've definitely noticed it with clients as well. So I think sometimes we can feel some resistance to self-compassion because we think of it like self-pity, or it means I get to do whatever I want and just baby myself all the time. But it's different from self-pity or being really self-centered. And it's also different from self-esteem. You know, I think of self-esteem like how we view ourselves, like how much worth we have or how good we feel about ourselves. But self-compassion is something that is there for us even when we don't feel like we're doing well, or maybe we made a mistake or we struggle. Self-compassion sees that we kind of have worth even in those hard times. The definition we're going to use tonight is to become an inner ally rather than an inner enemy. And the three main parts of self-compassion are mindfulness. So we already kind of went over that. So first we have to be mindful before we can know what we need and how to show compassion to ourselves. And then the second part of it is self-kindness, and we'll go into that and what that means. And the third part is common humanity, just the idea that as human beings, suffering is part of our experience. And everybody experiences that. And so it kind of normalizes it so that we feel kind of connected with each other. Like, hey, we all know what suffering feels like. We all know what the emotion of fear feels like. And it can really connect us to each other and help us not feel isolated as much and not beat ourselves up for those emotions. Okay, so let's go over the benefits of self-compassion. I think, so one is that it facilitates healing from trauma. So with trauma, when we have traumatic things or abuse happen to us, I don't know if I've met anyone who doesn't have some level of self-blame when that happens. And I think part of our mind wants to control our future and stop bad things from ever happening to us. So it'll tell us things like, oh, well, if you hadn't done this, maybe it wouldn't have happened. Or if you could go back and change this. Or I think part of our brains always do that and want to blame ourselves. And that can really keep us stuck in the trauma. And self-compassion can help lift us out of that and realize that we were doing the best we knew how in the moment, and we don't need to blame ourselves for those things. It can help with better performance at school and work because it really helps fight perfectionism or like performance anxiety. Because it allows us space to be human, to make mistakes, and know that we're still like, okay, like we're not horrible people because we made this mistake. It decreases anxiety and depression. Similar to mindfulness, kind of the story we tell about our anxiety and our depression, and that it means we're horrible people, or it means we're broken or flawed, that can help combat that. And it decreases shame. I think this is one of my favorite parts because shame wants to tell us that, you know, if we make a mistake or we maybe damaged a relationship, shame wants to tell us, I'm not good enough, I'm broken, I'm a horrible person. And self-compassion on the other side wants to tell us, oh, I made a mistake, but I'm not horrible. Or I really damaged this relationship. Maybe I should apologize. But it doesn't, it helps us not internalize it like shame would like us to do. So I like this quote from Jack Kornfield: "If your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete." And I feel like, in general, being in the helping profession, we're pretty good at trying to show compassion to other people. I mean, hopefully we are, and that's why we're in this field. But gosh, it can be hard to do it for ourselves, right? And I think that it's good to think, oh, well, our compassion's not complete if it doesn't include us. Okay, so we're going to do a self-compassion exercise now. So I'm going to sit down for this too and just notice, kind of use that mindfulness that we just practiced again for this experience, and just notice anything that comes up, even if maybe you feel a little resistance. I think a lot of times when we first try self-compassion, sometimes there's resistance. So just take note of that. There's nothing wrong or right about that. We're just going to notice it. So if you're comfortable, again, closing your eyes. Otherwise, you can just look softly at the ground. And then think of a difficult situation or emotion that you've recently experienced. See if you can recall the specifics of the situation and any accompanying emotions. And then connect with your body and notice if you sense that emotion or any discomfort anywhere in your body. And then place one hand on your chest and cover that hand with your other hand. And just imagine your hands are bringing comfort and soothing to your body as we continue. I'm going to say a few sentences, and if any of them resonate with you or feel true for you, you can repeat them to yourself. And just notice how your body responds to the different sentences. It's difficult for me to feel this emotion or to be in this situation. It's okay for me to struggle with this. Others in my exact situation would feel the same way. I'm allowing myself to feel exactly how I'm feeling right now. I can take all the time and space that I need to work through this. Okay, so check back in with your body and notice if anything shifted or if things feel the same. There's no right or wrong. We just notice what's there. And then slowly come back into the room like we did before. And open your eyes when you're ready. Okay, so does anybody want to share anything they noticed doing that, or a sentence maybe that, really hit for them? Did you? I know. Yeah. 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 Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I think a lot of us, I don't know if it's our busy culture or maybe messages we get from parents, or that we have to hurry up and stop crying, or we have to hurry up and get over it. And so, yeah, this can really allow us to give ourselves space. And the more we do that for ourselves, the easier it is to do it for other people too. Yeah. Yeah. Just small ways that can really shift things a lot. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else? Yeah. Yeah. Can I ask her a follow-up question? Okay. Yeah, I'm just curious if she has an idea of when she noticed a shift, or if there was something in particular that maybe helped her feel that calm. And we'll let her catch up with us later if she wants. Anybody else have anything that stood out to them? Okay. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and that's a big part of mindfulness, is that's just a thought. I don't have to engage with it, and I don't have to give it power. And it doesn't mean I'm bad. It's just a thought. Um, yeah, so Richie commented, for those on Facebook who maybe didn't hear it, that she appreciated the statement, allowing yourself time and space to work through it, and she immediately had a thought, but hurry up. And so, yeah, so you were mindful of that moment. And I know I do this to myself because, well, I do it with clients too, because it's hard to sit with someone who's struggling. And sometimes I want to jump in and rescue and make it better for them right now. and also for myself, life goes on. Like, life doesn't always slow down for my emotions or the hard things in my life. And so sometimes I get impatient with myself too, in that way. Anything else? Anybody who wants to share about that? No? Yeah. Yeah. So you felt like some resistance to that idea. Yeah. And you're probably right, because we're all, well, so Dave said the statement, others in your situation would feel the same way. He kind of disagreed with it. Oh, okay. Yeah, and I mean, you're probably right? Because we are all different humans that experience things differently. So if you were going to do this, you'd probably want to adapt that. So what that is trying to connect with is that common humanity that everybody feels. So maybe instead you could pick an emotion like, if your difficult emotion was anger, you could say, everyone knows what it feels like to be angry, and I'm not alone. So, adapt it. I definitely suggest everyone finding sentences that work for them, that feel true and sincere, and adapt it for yourself. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. So sometimes just being aware of what's happening in our body can help us know what it needs in that moment. So, okay. So with self-compassion, I talked about how it's not just letting yourself do whatever you feel like doing because it feels good. There's a yin and a yang to self-compassion. So the yin is very much soothing, comforting, validating yourself. Really what we just did, that was like an example of a yin practice. And then the yang practice is setting boundaries to protect yourself. Doing things that kind of like doing yourself a favor for the next day. Like, I know it would be good for me or healthy for me to do such and such, so I'm going to go ahead and do it to show myself love and compassion, rather than you should do this because you're horrible and you'll get fat if you don't, but more of a compassionate way of talking to yourself to reach your goals or to connect with your values and live your values. So I'm going to say a way to practice self-compassion, and I want you guys to do a little game. Well, not really a game, but do a little exercise with me. If you think that it's yin, I want you to raise one arm. If you think it's yang, raise both hands. Okay? Sound okay? See if I can read these. Okay. I don't remember what order they go in. Oh, yes, they're right here. Cool. Okay. Write a letter to yourself as if from a loving and accepting friend. What do you guys think? Yin or yang? One hand is yin, two is yang. So yang says protecting, providing, and motivating ourselves. Okay, we've got 3 yins, and Richie's doing solo yang. It's yin. I mean, you're welcome to debate it if you want. But that's like a comforting, validating exercise, right? Okay, how about this one? Setting boundaries to protect yourself. Yes, that's yang, right? That's kind of like an active, strong thing that we do that can take a lot of courage, but well, I don't know. Let's get them all up there, and then you can tell me what you think. Oh, shoot. I wasn't supposed to give it away. You guys all know the answer. Okay. Yeah, thanking your body for attributes you appreciate and functions it performs. Are you guys like super hard on your body? I know I am. I have like hated my man hands. I call them man hands like my whole life. And lately I did this self-compassion exercise where I was like, I really appreciate my strong hands. And just like reframing it was way more compassionate. I think that our bodies do functions day in and day out, and instead of really taking time to appreciate it, a lot of times we just beat ourselves up for the things we don't like. And so I think that's yin. That's something to comfort ourselves Okay, before I click the button, I was about to do it again. Okay, speak compassionately to yourself during difficult emotions. Similar to what we just did. Yeah, that is yin. Okay. Perform healthy practices to show care for yourself. Perform healthy practices. So like good sleeping, good eating. Yes, that's like taking care of ourselves even when we don't really want to. Oh, I already said this one earlier, right? Setting boundaries. That's yang. So you probably can guess what the next one is because yin is all filled up. So gentle encouragement to meet your goals. That's going to be yang, right? You're giving yourself a pep talk and helping yourself out. So what do you think now that they're all up there? Are they yang actions? Yeah, I mean, I think the yin has some actions too. Maybe it's just a little more passive sometimes. Yeah. No, yeah. So bodybuilder is yang, like kind of like your bodyguard. I like that. I think we can go with that. And then what was yin? A princess dress. These two over here are being really mindful with the images that are coming to their head. Okay. Yeah, definitely. I think and images help. So, I think it's kind of like a really good parent. A really good parent is going to comfort and soothe you, and they're going to say, you know what, you need to learn how to work, and you need to be healthy and eat your vegetables. So, yeah, I think it's kind of both. But bodyguard and princess dress, that works too. Okay, we're running out of time. We did start 5 minutes late, so okay, I'm good. Okay. Oh wait, I forgot. Backdraft. So the backdraft is kind of something that you might want to watch out for with self-compassion. So when like a window breaks, when a house is on fire, a window breaks, the air rushes in, and then the flames go nuts because the oxygen comes in. So sometimes when we start showing ourselves compassion, it's kind of like opening a window to a lot of pain that maybe we've pushed aside for a long time. And so it can be painful. And we can feel a lot of resistance to the compassion, and it can just be hard to sit with it. So just something to be aware of that that might happen and might come up. And if it does, we just notice it, or if you notice it happening with a client, just be aware of it and maybe move on to something else, or just acknowledge it. Like, yeah, this is probably what's happening, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so since we're all in the helping profession, I just thought it would be good to wrap up with talking about how this can really help us with our work. So obviously, the more we use it for ourselves, the more we're going to be able to help use it with others. And I think it also helps us really stay present with the hard emotions that we sit with our clients, or just tough situations that maybe there aren't always solutions for. It can help us be more present with them and not necessarily run in and rescue them. Just really helps us be attentive in the moment so that we can really be open to what they're experiencing. And I think they can sense that when we're present with them. I think mindfulness is about noticing what's there without judging or labeling it. And so that can help us have less assumptions about what's going on and like less desire to just jump in and assume we know what's happening. It also helps us be more open to other people's experiences. And any self-compassion we practice for ourselves just helps us better able to do it for others. And I'm guessing that's all important to us, that we're able to really be compassionate and not get burned out. And the more we can do that for ourselves, the more we can do it for the people we work with, or our family members, people we care about in our life too. Okay, so I just want to leave you guys with a couple resources you can use if you want to look into doing this more for yourself and for clients. There's an app called Headspace. Has anybody tried this before? Yes. Oh. Yeah, because I've never paid for it. Okay. Okay, if you're a student, $10 a year. I just have the free one. So it has like 10 basic lessons, and you can choose 3, 5, or 10-minute practice sessions. So it's super, super easy. Like, I think we can all carve out 3, 5, or 10 minutes a day. And then there's also a Netflix series for Headspace, and they have 3 different series. One is a guide to sleep, guide to meditation, unwind your mind. And I started watching those, and they kind of do a little bit of education about what mindfulness is, and then it ends with a mindful exercise at the end of each episode. So that's fun. A lot of what I used today was pulled from a book called Mindfulness and Self-Compassion. It's a workbook, so it has a lot of exercises, like a lot. It's really great if you want to use that for yourself or with clients that you work with. And then also, do you guys ever listen to great courses on Audible? Nah? Okay. Well, great courses is kind of like professors from different universities teaching courses, and it's pretty awesome. So one of them is The Science of Mindfulness by Ronald Siegel, and it's a really good course, and it talks really in depth if you want to know the ins and outs and kind of a lot of the science behind it. So, yeah. Does anybody have any? I just want to go to my last slide because it's just a pretty picture. Does anybody have any final questions or thoughts? Facebook? Okay. No, well, it's like an audio course. I think they show it on YouTube as well. But you do have to pay for them, so you either have to get a Great Courses subscription, or through Audible, you can order them with your credits. So, okay. Well, if nothing's coming in from Facebook, I think we're good. Thank you guys so much for participating and for coming.